Next one from William. How have you seen ecological sustainability practiced in microgreen operations? I'm mainly wondering in terms of growing medium and packaging, and I'd like to know about sustainability in other facets of the business as well. We did a video from the field with that specifically with Vanessa Hannell of Micro YYC. She's a really good microgreen grower in Calgary. We did a video specifically about packaging. I think if you go into From the Field and search packaging or something like that, you'll find it. So we've covered that before as far as like compostable. Oh, excuse me. Yeah. I had lunch before it. Sometimes I get a little drowsy after lunch, especially if I eat carbs. So yeah, it's a compostable packaging or something like that. I don't have all the answers to what the sustainable solutions are for all of these things. It's one of the sad realities of microgreens is like you're kind of dependent on a certain degree of input streams and a place to put those. Vanessa had some neat stuff where she was using I think it was half of her soil was compost that was made in Calgary from the now defunct or now bankrupt hop compost. So she was getting a lot of her soil from them, as well as they were taking her flats, her spent flats, and composting them, and then she would use that again in her soil. So, you know, bit of sustainability there. You know, and sustainable. It's good that you use that word sustainable, because I with the experience I've had with market gardening and all this and traveling around, is I distinguish a clear difference between sustainable and regenerative. More like conventional, it's like on a graph from left to right. There's conventional, then the bar goes up, and then maybe in the middle it's sustainable, and then on the other end it's regenerative. So you go from being anti-regenerative to, being like mining in a way, which is much like conventional agriculture, to sustainable. That's basically just sustaining something that's not necessarily bad, it's not necessarily good, it's neutral. And then regenerative is a positive externality. So negative externalities to positive externalities. And microgreens is definitely sustainable at best. At best. It's just the reality, right? Like, I don't try to sugarcoat these things. It's just the reality. I still support that business model. I still think there's value in it. You know, as people get more into this, there's going to be more solutions to make these things maybe perhaps beyond sustainable, but they're not right now. At best, microgreens operations that are using, you know, compostable packaging, and have found ways to make their input streams more sustainable are at best sustainable, but they're probably still more on the other side of with negative externalities. It's just the reality of it. So that's, you know, that's some food for thought there. I don't have all the answers with that. It's just kind of how it is, really. If you wanted to do a truly, let's say even just a truly sustainable microgreens operation, you'd have to do microgreens in the field. And that presents its own challenges, but it's certainly doable. I did it. Difficult in the shoulder season, but I don't see why you wouldn't be able to do it in the winter with good greenhouses. So it's definitely doable. I've done multiple videos on field micros, and so you could do that and, you know, produce a lovely product. Just have a whole new set of challenges. Benefits as well, right? Because the nice thing about doing field micros is you don't really run into problems like fungus per se. You might at the dead of winter in a greenhouse because they're so densely planted. And in some climates like mine, it's wet and cloudy for months of the year. And so that kind of condensation in the greenhouse, humidity levels coupled with low light levels is a breeding ground for fungus. So you might have some fungus problems there. I've never actually tried field microgreens in the winter in a greenhouse. You definitely have to heat it a lot, or maybe have some kind of hydronic system in the ground. But I'd be actually interested to see if somebody did that. I think it might be kind of a neat idea. it's certainly a way to do microgreens where you don't need to have the soil medium. So if you're concerned about the use of peat or coconut coir, and you don't want to use that product, well, then you got to grow on the ground. That also means you got to turn your soil, because once you harvest that crop, well, you don't have to turn it per se. Once you harvest your microgreens, you got to prepare that area again to plant. And so you usually would do that by, I used to stir a poet out, and then I'd put that in the compost, and then I'd run the tilther through the bed to prep it again. You don't need any fertilizer or anything, because you're only using the soil as a medium, a growing medium, because microgreens don't really need nutrients. So yeah, anyways, some food for thought there.